Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel, and in today's video I'm going to be talking about all of my most disappointing reads of 2022. I am very excited and a little bit nervous to talk about these books today. I'm going to be going through about 7 or 8 books that I had very high hopes for this year when I first picked them up, but unfortunately they just did not work out. None of the books on this list I would say are bad or trash or anything like that. They just did not deliver what I was expecting them to, and unfortunately let me down a little bit. So before we get into this video, let's just have a little chat, you and I, a little bestie chat. If you love any of these books, which I'm sure a lot of you will because I know I have some like very well-loved all-time favorites on this list, but if you loved these books, I think that is fantastic. Your opinion is totally valid, as is mine. Books are totally subjective. Everyone's gonna have a little bit of a different experience with them, and just because they did not work for me, I did not like them, that doesn't mean they are bad books, and that is not what I am here to say. If you loved them, that is fantastic, slay. And without further ado, let's get into it. These are my most disappointing books of 2022. All right, so starting off with a bang, I have The Bridge Kingdom by Danielle L. Jensen. This book was extremely, highly anticipated by me because as my love for fantasy romance has grown over the years, The Bridge Kingdom is a book that I heard a lot about. I feel like it's a book that often gets recommended when people are looking for fantasy romances on KU, and so I had the highest of hopes. This book is an enemies to lovers fantasy romance. It follows this assassin princess who is set to marry a prince from a rival kingdom, but once they are married, she is supposed to kill him, but of course that does not happen. They end up falling in love. To be honest, my biggest issue with this book was I was very bored, particularly with the romance and the characterization. I just didn't find these characters in this relationship very compelling. There truly was not a lot of tension or angst between these characters. I also remember feeling like they didn't even really spend too much time together. We didn't really get to have that enemies to lovers progression because they really didn't get a lot of time to do that together. I also felt like this book did focus a lot more on the politics within this world, which is fine, but I would have liked a healthy dose of romance to balance that out. I did end up giving this book 3 stars. It's not a bad book by any means, but definitely not what I was expecting. My next disappointing read of 2022 is going to be Collided by Lauren Asher. So this is the second book in the Dirty Air series, which is an F1 sports romance on KU. I was really excited to pick this book up because I read the first book. I think it's called Throttled. Yes, first book is Throttled, and I really liked it. I gave it 4 stars. I was like excited. I thought it was cute. It was a little bit cheesy, but I was like into it. I love F1. It's my favorite sport. So I was very intrigued by this series as a whole. I picked up the second book and I was quickly disenchanted. Our 2 main characters were pretty insufferable in my opinion. The first issue I had was our female love interest definitely was a pick-me, definitely suffered from quirky girl syndrome. She really made a point to point out how she's not like other girls, and she put down other women in the process. I just really don't like that. I'm never gonna root for a character who is like that. And then our male love interest, he constantly talked about how much he wanted to sleep with our main character. I feel like that was basically written into every piece of dialogue that he had. He left little to be desired, we could say. And I truly just wasn't very excited about this couple. I did not really find them engaging. I did not really find them characters that I could easily root for. And I just felt like because of how forward he was, there wasn't really a lot of tension. Once again, that is my biggest thing in romance. We have to have tension, angst, a little bit of slow burn, and there really wasn't a lot of that. I also didn't really find there to be like a super strong narrative in this romance. They were kind of just hanging out and him just constantly talking about sex and all of that. And then our main character was, unfortunately, I feel like putting down women a lot. So I did not like this book, unfortunately, as much as the first one, but I have now read the 3rd and 4th book, which I definitely liked better. Only the 2nd book stood out as a dud for me. All right, so my next disappointing read is going to be To Love, Jason Thorne by Ella Mays. I am really sad that this book did not work, but pretty much from the jump, I knew that this wasn't going to end up working out for me. It is actually one of my only 1-star reads that I read this year. I had a couple of issues with this book. So the premise of this book is actually really cute and I was really excited for it. We had kind of a childhood friends-ish to lovers. Our main character was in love with her brother's best friend when she was like 14 and he was 18. In the beginning of the novel, we saw a little bit of that and it was pretty cute. Then we flash forward and our female main character is an author and her book is getting adapted into a movie. Her brother's best friend actually grew up to become a very famous actor, and he is going to be starring in this adaptation, which would be reuniting our female main character and our love interest for the first time in several years. I thought that was a really cool premise. I thought that was so cute. I loved the book, adaptation, movie, all of that. I thought that that was a really cool spin. My first problem with this book was when our female main character sees the love interest for the first time, she calls him the man who broke my heart. I kind of questioned this and I didn't really understand why she was saying that because they had very little interaction when they were kids. kids, and they were kids, so that didn't really make sense to me. Our main character was also, I think, 13 or 14 in the beginning of the book, and then the love interest was 18. She had a really big crush on him, which is like totally fine, but she overheard him talking about her in a very like little sister way. Obviously didn't have feelings for her because he was an adult and she was a child, and that really, really hurt her. I understand when you are a child, something like that is gonna hurt your feelings, but as you grow up, you obviously realize, well, that was unrealistic because I was a kid, he was way older, whatever. But she actually kind of held these negative feelings towards him, and that is why she called him the man who broke my heart. I just don't really feel like that is a very believable reason to dislike someone. It really didn't make any sense to me. I kind of kept waiting for further explanation, but then it was confirmed that that is the reason why she kind of didn't want to talk to him or befriend him when they were older, and I thought that that was pretty immature, and I just didn't really understand that. I also feel like once our two characters got together romantically, it was a pretty lust-filled attraction and relationship. I don't really feel like we got a lot of emotions there. And then the final nail in the coffin for me was we actually had 2 dubcon sex scenes. I was really, really not prepared for that. I didn't expect that, and it's definitely not something that I expect to see in a fluffy, light rom-com. So that was very disappointing and made me very uncomfortable. I don't know, I didn't like the way that it was presented. It was presented in this very sweet and fun way, but I just felt very weird reading it. So it is just something for me personally that I don't like to read. When you go into a lighter, cute rom-com, you don't really expect that, I guess. I don't know if it's just a me thing, but I was pretty surprised by that, and it just really, really took all of the potential for this book to turn around and be better out of it for me. So unfortunately, I did give this book 1 star. I just really did not like it, and I didn't really find any part of the relationship compelling. All right, the next book on my most disappointing reads of 2022 is going to be Things We Never Got Over by Lucy Score. This was a book talk sensation. It was all over the place. I was really, really excited to pick it up, but really did not work for me. This book is marketed as a grumpy sunshine, small town romance. We have kind of a more high maintenance city girl ending up in this small town, and she is kind of forced to work alongside and interact with the grumpy local Knox. 2 of them kind of work to help raise our main character's niece, who she did not know existed after her sister has left her, and our high maintenance city girl ends up finding a place in this small town, and there's kind of this found family aspect as well. There were parts of this book that I did think were cute, particularly the relationship between Naomi and her niece. I thought that was really sweet. I did like how the town rallied around them, but my biggest issue, the singular biggest issue that I had with this book was Knox. He gave me the ick pretty much right off the bat. He was incredibly immature. He physically fought his brother when he thought that his brother might have a crush on Naomi, which just seems very immature, very strange, and he just never made me swoon. In fact, he made me do the opposite, and I just really, really did not like him. And if I can't like the main characters, our love interests, it's just never gonna happen for me. I did end up warming up to Naomi a little bit as the novel went on. Definitely in the beginning, she was just not really my thing and kind of made drinking coffee her personality, which I just don't love that. So the 2 of them just were not my favorite. And then also at the very end of the book, there was this like crime storyline that kind of boiled over, and it truly felt like I was reading an SNL sketch. It was very cartoonish and campy, and it really just made me go, what the hell did I just read? I just did not find any of the romance in this book to pull at my heartstrings or be believable, to be honest. So this was a 2 star for me. Unfortunately, it did not work. Okay, the next book on my most disappointing reads of 2022 is going to be City of Gods and Monsters by Kayla Edwards. If you've been watching my channel for a while, you know that I do not love this book. I had like some of the highest hopes in the world when I picked this book up this year. This is a KU fantasy romance. It is heavily compared to House of Earth and Blood, which is one of my favorite books of all time. So I was hyped, I was excited, I heard amazing 5-star things. I do think that some of the characters were interesting in this book. I really liked our love interest and his friends and their kind of whole thing they had going on, but unfortunately, we had a main character who was just so naive, I think I called her a wet blanket in the vlog. She was a wet blanket, I'm sorry. She was really, really hard to root for. I just really did not like her. I did not like being in her head. I can appreciate all types of leading characters. We don't always need the swaggering tough assassin in a fantasy novel. She was full of a lot of self-doubt and naivety, as I said, and it kind of brought down the storyline as a whole. It ended up causing some issues with the plot, and I just was so irritated with her. And I feel like if you are disliking the main character as much as I did, there is no way for any of the other pieces of the book to make it better, and it just couldn't. I actually really liked her best friend more than her, and as I said, I really liked the love interest. I liked all of their friends. I liked a lot of things about this book, but when it's 700 pages of being in Lauren's head, I just couldn't do it. So this was, I think, originally a 3-star book, but I did lower my rating to 2 stars after a few months after I sat with it, because I don't really think that this book has a ton of redeeming qualities, which is really sad. I wanted to love it, but it just did not work out. The next book on my most disappointing reads of 2022, I actually just read a couple days ago, so did not have plans to put this on this list, but I had to because it very much disappointed me. That book is Love Light Farms by B.K. Borison. I was so excited for my Christmas Hallmark Gilmore Girls Christmas Tree Farm romance. Unfortunately, it did not deliver for me. So this book follows our main character, and she owns a Christmas tree farm. The Christmas tree farm has been losing money over the last few months though, and so she enters a social media competition, and she writes on her application that she owns this Christmas tree farm with her boyfriend to kind of try to make her Christmas tree farm more appealing and her overall story more compelling. Well, she does not have a boyfriend, and so she very quickly has to find someone to fake date when the blogger running the social media competition comes to visit the farm. She asks her longtime best friend Luca to fake date her. He immediately says yes, and then the novel progresses from there. So I have like 3 major issues with this book. Number 1, I feel like the Christmas tree farm aspect and the Christmas tree farm setting was not utilized very well, if at all. I feel like this would have been such an easy slam dunk to have like cute fake dating scenarios happening at this Christmas tree farm. I feel like it's just all right there, right? A Christmas tree farm is just like the cutest setting for a book. This book did start around Halloween, and I don't even know if we made it to Christmas by the time the book was done, or if we did, it was like very short-lived, but the bulk of this book takes place in November. Did not give me the Christmassy feels, and that was disappointing because it's definitely what I went into the book thinking it was going to deliver, and it just really didn't. The second issue that I had with this book was it was very insta-love. This is supposed to be friends to lovers, but it is very clear from the beginning that these 2 people have feelings for each other. There is no doubt, like it is very, very obvious. So that really does take all of the tension out of the book, and I just got a little bit disappointed from that point on. And thirdly, our female main character, she was pretty naive and ignored a lot of things that were happening right in front of her face, and it was frustrating. It was really, really irritating to be in her POV because she had this almost like willful ignorance as she was walking around the world and interacting with people, and a lot of things that were very clear to everyone around her and me, the reader, she just completely denied, and I just don't really understand why. So overall, this book did not deliver for me. I'm really, really sad because as the cutest cover ever, oh my god, this is like the perfect Christmas romance cover, but I just don't feel like the contents of the book delivered on that. My next most disappointing book of 2022 is going to be Book of Night by Holly Black. This one is painful because I love Holly Black so much. The Folk of the Air series is one of my favorite series of all time. She also co-wrote the Spiderwick Chronicles, which was my favorite fantasy series growing up as a kid. Like I read that series so much, and later in life I realized that that was Holly Black. It was the best surprise ever, and it really made sense because she has this whimsical writing style that I feel like were represented well in the Folk of the Air series and the Spiderwick Chronicles. When she announced that she was putting out her debut adult fantasy, I was so excited. I was like, yep, here we go. This is gonna be the best book ever. And Book of Night was not it. To be honest with you, I have a hard time remembering what this book is about. I read it quite a long time ago, but I believe that our main character, I think it's set in kind of a modern world, but she deals kind of with shadow magic, and I think she is kind of trying to get out of a life of crime within the shadow magic, but then she kind of gets pulled back into it. I know also that there was a lot of flashing back to when she was a child and kind of how she grew up into the lifestyle that she is in now. And overall, my entire thoughts about this book was, it was very boring. I was not drawn into the story at all. I don't dislike any of the characters, but I didn't really root for anyone. I wasn't excited about anyone. I never really got brought in. And normally I do like a flashback to a character's past, but I just feel like even those stories, which helped kind of build our character and get to know her better, I don't really think that it achieved that. It breaks my heart. As I said, Holly Black, she's one of my favorite fantasy authors, but I really just did not like this book, and I wanted to so badly. I definitely won't be continuing on with this series at all, but I am very excited for The Stolen Heir to come out in January, which is kind of a continuation of the Folk of the Air series, and I love Holly Black so much, but Book of Night was just a no. Okay, so I have not been ranking these books thus far, but I am at my last book, and it is definitely my most disappointing read of 2022, and that is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. Put down the pitchforks. I know, I'm not happy about it either, you guys, okay? I can't even tell you my experience reading this book. It was like shocking. It was like I was like, what is happening? Emily Henry, I love her books so much. I do also want to say that I love People We Meet on Vacation and Beach Read. Those are both 5-star reads for me. I don't know what happened with me and book lovers, but we do not get along, okay? We are not the same. So this was marketed as kind of like an industry rivals to Lovers, I would say. We have our main character. She is a tough book agent, and then our love interest, what was his name? Charlie. I can't believe I remember that. Charlie, I believe, was an editor, and the two of them ended up running into each other in a small town, and the relationship is supposed to progress from there. My biggest issue, as I said in my reading vlog that I have for this book, is I feel like the romance did not show up to the party. This truly, to me, read like a general fiction novel that had a romantic subplot. Really, we spent so much time focusing on Nora's interpersonal issues. Her relationship with her sister was a big one. That was a huge, I feel like they were the stars of the book, and then Charlie was like, he was a side character. This book focused a lot on the familial issues that Nora and Libby had, and both with their past and with each other, and also kind of Nora's just inner feelings about herself and her career and all of that. She was also kind of presented as this shark in the business world, and I was really excited about that. I was hoping we were gonna get like a Paris Geller, a Blair Waldorf, you know, something like that, and I felt like she was just fine. I really don't think that she was that type of character, and I was really sad about that, and I don't think that this book focused on Charlie and Nora enough. I really do think that adding in those layers of the familial drama, of the interpersonal workings, all of that, like, that is important in a romance. And I totally love that added kind of padding, but I need the romance to focus on the romance, and I genuinely don't feel like it did. I felt like it was completely a side thing, and I was very disappointed. I did not swoon. I was not excited. I was truly let down by this book. And the reason it's my like most disappointing book of the year is because I had the actual highest hopes. This was my #2 most anticipated read of the year. I was so excited for this Rivals to Lovers. I was so excited for this dynamic between these characters, and I just feel so underwhelmed by the entire relationship between the two of them. So that is it. Those are my most disappointing reads of 2022. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments below, what is your most disappointing read of this year, or multiple most disappointing reads? I'd love to know. We can all talk in the comments and be sad about all the books that disappointed us. If you made it to this point in the video, go ahead and leave the broken heart emoji. I feel like that's a good representation of this video. As always, my Instagram and my Goodreads are linked down below. You are welcome to follow me on there at any time. I really appreciate that you watched this video. I hope that you are all having a fantastic day, and I will catch you guys in the next one.